A key feature of Staten Island's makeup is its roads, many of which are historic in nature and diverse in the tours they provide. The first tour is that of Staten Island's North Shore. It is traversed by Richmond Terrace and Bay Street, and stretches from Howland Hook at the far west of the shore to Rosebank. The two streets form an integral North Shore trail. Howland Hook and Port Ivory are at the western terminus of Richmond Terrace. The area's main roadway is Western Avenue. Few, if any, residential homes are situated in Howland Hook, as it was for a time the center of a Procter & Gamble factory which operated between 1907 and 1991. Its Ivory soap products led to the area being named Port Ivory. Today, few of the original Procter & Gamble buildings remain standing. The area is now under the control of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Cargo ships, and as of 2006, freight trains, move in and out of the area daily. Mariners Harbor is the next key neighborhood along the Richmond Terrace. The area was home to many oyster captains and seafood products in the 19th century. The booming business allowed many to construct large mansions along the terrace, known as Captain's Row. Few remain standing today. The oyster business declined significantly after 1916, when the waters were deemed too polluted from which to harvest fish. The area was hit hard by the crack cocaine epidemic of the 1980s, as a large public housing project in the area was home to such ales. However, in the last decade, business, particularly along the Forest Avenue corridor, began to revitalize. A Home Depot, Kohl's department store, Lowe's home improvement store, Western Beef Supermarket, and a United Artists movie theater have added commercial and business life to the once struggling community. The towns of Port Richmond and Elm Park are just beyond Mariners Harbor. Port Richmond was known in the 18th century as the burial place, as it is home to the oldest cemetery on Staten Island, surrounding the Dutch Reformed Church. The church was burned during the Revolution and rebuilt shortly thereafter. The town was once the industrial and commercial center of the borough. Ferry service under various names served the town to Manhattan and Bergen Point or Bayonne, New Jersey. The town was also served by the North Shore Railway. Port Richmond Square was a bustling center for shops and businesses. By the turn of the 20th century, the neighborhood homed coal, lumber, and whale and linseed oil industries. Yet when the Staten Island Mall opened in 1973, businesses and industries quickly declined in the area, leading to economic near collapse and dereliction. Passenger train service was discontinued in 1953. Ferry service ended in the early 1960s. The town had seen its heyday. Yet a significant influx of Mexican immigrants in the last decade has revitalized, at least in part, the Port Richmond Avenue business corridor once again. Adjacent to Port Richmond is Elm Park. Known earlier as Jacksonville and Lowville, it was renamed Elm Park after the significant elm trees found on the estate of Dr. John T. Harrison. The name applies both to a local park and the broader, small town between Mariners Harbor and Port Richmond. Further east, one encounters the towns of West New Brighton and New Brighton. Colloquially known as West Brighton, West New Brighton was once named Factoryville. It's home to several shipyards and tugboat companies. The town itself contains multiple abandoned cemeteries, such as Trinity Church Cemetery, which served as a Native American burial ground. The Staten Island Zoo can also be found at West Brighton, along Clove Road. Also evident, yet not prominent, is one vestige of an earlier age, a brook. There once were numerous brooks, runs, and ponds, but they have mostly dried up and subsequently been filled in. This creek, known as Palmer's Run, was formed by the damming of Bowden's Pond. The stream ran further south into the pond, on the present-day Rector Street. Further east along Richmond Terrace is New Brighton, the smaller town neighboring its western namesake. It is home to St. Peter's Church, the oldest Roman Catholic church on the island. Also found in New Brighton is Hamilton Park, site of many pre-Civil War Victorian homes. These homes were collectively one of the first suburban residential developments in the United States. St. George and Tompkinsville stand at the intersection of Richmond Terrace and Bay Street as the roadway turns southward. St. George is home to Borough Hall, the St. George ferries to Manhattan, and the first stop on the Staten Island Railway. Established as Fort Hill for the British during the Revolution, it was reportedly renamed after George Law, a local investor who possessed land integral for consolidation of the railroads. Erastus Wyman sought to purchase this land, yet the condition being that it be named after Law, who was also given sainthood. St. George grew rapidly during the 20th century as ferry service began and businesses commenced operating out of the town. It experienced a decline during the 1960s, from which it has modestly begun to rebound. In the last decade, a new stadium for the minor league Staten Island Yankees team opened, as did a new ferry terminal. Construction on newer homes and apartments has also transpired, revitalizing the community. Tompkinsville, just south, began as the watering place, a site for travelers and explorers to replenish their water supplies. Named for Daniel Tompkins, the town was the site of the infamous quarantine during the 19th century. Established to treat and hold immigrants deemed too sick to live in the country, it was burned by local dissidents and opposition leaders when concern for the health of the island made the center both unappealing and potentially dangerous. Like most North Shore communities, Tompkinsville declined after the Verrazano Bridge opened as businesses moved further inland. Yet it has experienced a modest rebound in the last few years. At the end of the Richmond Terrace Bay Street tour lie the towns of Stapleton, Clifton, and Rosebank. Established on land owned by the Vanderbilt family, Stapleton was incorporated in the early 19th century. In the 1830s, William J. Staples, together with the son of Daniel Tompkins, Minthorne Tompkins, procured the land and laid out the streets. Stapleton has very much seen its successes pulled out from under it on more than one occasion. Direct ferry service to Manhattan was halted in 1886 after rail service was extended to St. George. Piers were built in the 1920s, but their uses never fully materialized, and a few stints during World War II as foreign trade zones could not salvage the fledgling industry, leading to its demolition in the 1970s. In 1983, the town was chosen to be a home port for a naval unit headed by the battleship Iowa, but controversy and opposition, coupled with military cutbacks after the Cold War, defeated those plans as well. Very much a commercial center of activity on the northeast shore, Stapleton has declined in the last 4 decades, and unlike its neighbors to the north, has struggled to rebound. Clifton, to Stapleton's south, has experienced similar woes. After experiencing rising crime and drug rates in the 1960s, the town continues to struggle with economic stagnation and an inability to rebound from those setbacks. Known originally as Peterstown, Rosebank, the final town on the Bay Street tour, is home to the Garibaldi Mucci Museum, a testament to the area's large Italian background, as well as the relationship the town had with Italian nationalist Giuseppe Garibaldi. Yet Rosebank too suffers from woes of yesteryear, struggling to cope with economic decline and a lack of much urban development and investment.